Hello and welcome to Fierce. This program celebrates the diversity of LGBTIQ identities and perspectives. Fierce is produced in Bundjalung Country at 2NCR Lismore and can also be heard on podcast at fiercefm.podbean.com and in New Zealand on Fresh FM, as well as all over Australia through the Community Radio Network. This is Peter Lena, and I want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands where you are listening. They took care of these lands sustainably for hundreds of thousands of years and then shared this land with us at great cost to their own lives. I want to honour and thank them for the work they have done and continue to do to care for country and to sit on the earth. I also want to thank the fairies and crones who came before us in history to fight for our human rights, to love fiercely.
Fierce.
Hello and welcome to Fierce. And tonight we get to chat to Hannie Rayson, who's recognised as one of Australia's most significant, awarded and beloved playwrights, with 14 plays travelling our globe, including Hotel Sorrento, Life After George, Inheritance, and now Extinction, which was commissioned in New York City by Manhatten Theatre Club. It's a play aiming, I guess, to make science part of the everyday conversation we are having, and the play brings together the hard right and the soft left to talk to each other about the complexities in a very humorous and thrilling way. Hi, Hannie.
Hello, Peter.
What an amazing career you've had, and how fierce are you?
Well, I'm very fierce.
And beautiful.
That was a great introduction. Thank you. I'm so thrilled about the play being on at Mullumbimby.
Do you know Mullen well? Have you been up here much?
I'm a bit of a veteran of the Byron Bay Writers Festival, which, in my view, as someone who goes to all these things, is the best festival in the country. I love going to that festival. So any opportunity to come up.
Where are you living?
We're living in Melbourne, but we are doing these funny projects, which we're calling our Hello Project. This is the royal we, meaning me and my husband, Michael Cathcart, who's an ABC broadcaster, where we move to a country town for 3 months and we do a big hello project with the community, which is to create a portrait of their town. Basically, we live in Melbourne.
So you're a city girl?
Yeah.
Who cares about the environment?
I have lived a long and rich life, so I've spent a lot of time in that coastline. Extinction is set in Cape Hop Way, which is in the northwest corner of Victoria. Really magnificent rainforest country where the rainforest meets the wild Southern Ocean. It's very bracing and green and wild, beautiful place. And I've spent a lot of time there. And the play is actually based on a real ecology centre down there, but in terms of biodiversity project to save the tiger quoll, but everything else about the play is a complete fiction. All the corruption and sex and everything, I made it myself.
Well, you've won lots of awards, including the first playwright ever to win one of the most famous literary awards, which usually goes to novelists. So how do you do it? How did you get started? How did you get this career?
I started out weirdly as an actor. Well, I trained at university as a psychologist, which is actually good training for a playwright because it's all about trying to understand human psychology, how we put our worldview together, what makes us tick, how we resolve or don't resolve conflicts. I went to the Victorian College of the Arts and became an actor. You have to be a kind of theatre animal, I think, to work in the theatre. You know, I just think circumstances, good luck, being in the right place at the right time, as they say, annoyingly to other people. I think too, you know, I came riding into the theatre and literary world on a wave of an interest in who we are as Australians, trying to create a voice for women in the theatre. Big roles, big emotions, complex lives, which is absolutely the way women live, but had never been much represented in the theatre. So given that I had a kind of a direct line into women's experience, you know, that helped. And I also work as a journalist. I write for The Age. It gives you this passport to go and find out about the way people live their lives is completely different to me. That's the job, to see how other people put their world together.
Wow. That takes a real empathy, I guess, and also an ability to put aside any strong feelings of your own.
That's so true, Peter. The task is one of empathy. That is entirely what it is. And it's tricky. So in Extinction, I've written about a coal miner, and I have strong views about coal mining, which are very clear to me that it should stay in the ground. But I'm much more interested not in exacerbating a sort of dreadful adversarial debates that have occurred in the public space so far about climate change, which just make you just want to turn off, because it's just people either shouting at each other or in very blunted ways through a kind of... Listen to that! That's your kookaburra. People fighting with blunt instruments, really. And I wanted to talk about this in a much more nuanced way, in a more personal way, and more sort of subtle way, I suppose. Complex is probably the better word, about how we are all to live in the age of global warming and the sorts of decision-making that we're all faced with. That requires empathy because, in fact, the coal miner is quite a sort of charismatic, wonderful fellow in some ways. So that's what I wanted to do, to see if I could make environmentalists get into bed with big coal, literally.
Can a mining executive become an environmentalist? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think he or she can. Part of the environmental debate often is about trade-offs, and I think, even BHP are now on board with this quest. There's lots of ways of thinking about environmental issues which are about making compromises and doing deals. The coal miner in my story lays $2 million on the table of a small research institute attached to a university which is on the brink of closing its doors, and 35 researchers will lose their jobs unless there's an influx of money. That's the state of universities these days. You have to go out and raise your own dollars in a lot of cases, and so it's as much a critique of the current university system as other things. But she has to make that decision that a $2 million boost of funds would have an effect on biodiversity project in the old ways. Difficult things to weigh up, and the audience is asked to put themselves in her shoes.
That's that compromise with corruption.
Indeed. And, in a little country town that I'm quite familiar with, most of the social activities have been funded by a coal mine. The coal mine has now closed, but the scouts, the creche, the soccer team, the footy team, it's the charm offensive, really, is the funding for things that make a community work.
A lot of writers would make one view the villain and the other side the hero, but in your place, you're looking at the moral and ethical issues, and you're actually bringing the hard right and soft left together to talk, because it's very complicated.
I think it is complicated. My own vision of some of the early climate change debate was people thrusting graphs on PowerPoints and stabbing their finger furiously at the axes of graphs, and me thinking, I don't know whether to believe the guy from the right or the guy from the left. I'm just going to go from the guy from the left because he's the more attractive human being. It seemed like there was so much debate of that nature that felt sort of so out of reach. It just made you feel gloomy and wanting to switch off. And I don't want people to switch off. I want people to be energised in the way that the Extinction Rebellion is. This new movement for class disobedience is actually mobilising people around the world with a sense of agency and action, and that's thrilling to me.
Straight after our interview this morning, I'm heading off to Lismore to put on a suit and to pretend to be a hard right person for an Extinction Rebellion protest. So that's wonderful to hear you talk about that. I was going to ask you, do you think civil disobedience and protesting help the hard right to listen? I
think they will have to listen with the numbers. That's the thing that is very mobilising with the Extinction Rebellion, of course, because they're just getting so much traction from vast numbers of people. It's the same question, did the moratorium affect our participation in the Vietnam War? Well, yes. So it feels like those days again. And as I've got older, I get more nervous about people gluing themselves to trains and things like that. But I just feel like this kind of social engagement and responsibility on part of a new generation is wondrous to me.
I know that you've talked about wanting to discover what the human cost is to the extinction, and the play is set in your neck of the woods, and it's about an animal that used to be everywhere when you were a child, and now it's almost extinct. There's 29 mammals in the 200 years of white settlement that are now extinct. What is the human cost?
It's a kind of spiritual cost. We are responsible for the death of entire species that have taken millions and millions and millions of years to develop, that can be just winked out of existent in our lifetime. I've just been up in far north Queensland and I'm sort of obsessed with crocodiles. And I read this report from a woman who'd been in a death roll with a crocodile and she ended up escaping, and she wrote this piece about humans understanding what it meant to be eaten, that we were just the eaters usually, and that her experience of near death with the crocodile.
I love that.
And her name is Val Plumwood. It was such a great piece. And I was just thinking how great that was to understand where we are for human beings as part of the ecosystem, that we can be eaten, and instead of the response to go out and shoot the crocodiles and shoot sharks and what have you, but just feeling a part of this environment, and even urban dwellers, of course, feeling that. And I think that is happening. The consciousness is changing, and that feels very positive to me.
Do you have any thoughts about how that's happening? Is it a spiritual thing that's happening on the planet? Because the current government perhaps is not listening. They're trying to suppress journalists. They're trying to stop any sort of awareness of this, and yet it's still happening.
Yes, well, that's absolutely right. I think I'm talking more about a kind of mass citizens movement, really. I mean, 5 years ago, you didn't see so many pieces in the newspapers even about environmental issues, but in most people's consciousness, you have a sense that sometimes that Canberra is irrelevant. I mean, it isn't, of course, because I feel people are taking action into their own hands.
Yay! As you are. So let me ask you, what is the role of the artist in society?
The role of artist is to actually be an observer and a reporter and look at all the complexities of the situation and try and distill them and make things that provoke conversation. I mean, in the theatre particularly, in the visual arts as well. But my whole life has been thinking about the arts as being a central player in the national conversation. That's our responsibility and our privilege, to why we take time out of not having to go to the same job every day. I know that there are artists who think that their job is to create things of beauty, and I think that's true too. But I've certainly seen myself as being someone who engages and engenders a sense of compassion and a way of seeing the world quite differently. I'm very big on the possibility that you can come into the theatre thinking one thing and come out being utterly transformed and see the world in very different ways. That's my aim.
What a beautiful, fierce quest. I love it. Any tips for young artists to have a career?
Tenacity is the name of the game. It's a bit of a hard road, but it's not an entirely hard road if you just keep finding people that are simpatico and work collectively with as well as individually, because it's kind of lonely at times too. So you really do need to have a network for support and keep yourself going. Curiosity is my number one tip, keep nurturing your curiosity and empathy. Art transcends ideology, and it's not about using the theatre as a tool to bludgeon people over the head with your own views about politics. It's about actually thinking about your audience and thinking about how best that you can give them an amazing experience that's going to blow their mind.
Thank you for doing what you do. It's amazing to talk to you, and thank you so much for coming on to Fierce. So the play is going to be in Mullumbimby at the Drill Hall Theatre from the 2nd to the 18th of August, every Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Will you be coming up?
I will. In fact, I'm getting on the plane on Thursday, so I'll be there for the opening, and then there's a Q&A on the Sunday after the show where the director, Richard Vinicum, can have a drink and talk and all that stuff. Yeah, I can't wait. By the way, the poster is really beautiful. I saw it today and I was like, oh my God, that's lovely.
Yay.
We've had great conversations about it, so I'm looking forward to seeing a terrific production.
I'm going to be there. I can't wait too. Well, I so love who you are, and I'm so grateful that you're expressing yourself for all of us. What's your favourite song at the moment? I want to play it. Do you like ABBA? Do you like Kylie? Are you more into Nick Cave?
Yes, maybe you could play a Nick Cave song. That would be good. Something, or maybe It's Only the Beginning by Deborah Conway.
I love that song. Why that song?
It's so up, and I love her. It's great. Pretty much everyone will be singing it for the rest of the day.
I like the way that it's
Talking to Kim Sporton, who's a professional journalist working through print, radio and TV for over 25 years, now handling the media for Stop 5G Northern Rivers. So Kim, what is 5G? Why is it any different to what we already have?
5G is very different to the current 4G system. It relies on a much denser radio frequency, and it's going actually up to 100 times more powerful than the current radiation. There's people worldwide, doctors and scientists, that are saying that this will be hugely detrimental to animals, flora and fauna and insects. We've already seen a 70% decrease in the bee population alone in areas that 5G has been rolled out. Just imagine for a moment that you're standing in the front of your lovely home in the paradise here at Byron Bay, and you're looking out to perhaps your kids and your pets playing on the front lawn. The birds are singing, the trees are doing what beautiful trees do. In front of your home is a small cell box. There's another small cell box, potentially 3 homes down. These are on every street corner. They're attached to most buildings, schools, hospitals, shopping centres. This is the reality of the landscape we're facing with 5G. To operate, 5G needs small cell boxes placed every 100 metres, emitting way more powerful radiation than we have ever experienced before. And the most alarming part of this is that we do not have anyone telling us that it's been independently tested for safety. So we've got people all around the world, experts saying that it's going to cause cancer. It is that alarming, and there's been no testing. Our own government advisory body has said very clearly that they will not guarantee the safety of 5G deployment.
And so why would they deploy? Do they not care about people getting sick?
Well, it's the telcos, that they're industry funded. That there's no secret that our PANZA, which is the government advisory body on radiation levels, has historically been funded by industry. So this is why we're in such a dilemma here, and this is why it's being rolled out so stealthily. So few people actually know. So we're getting sold a big fat lie. We're getting sold that we can download 600 movies a minute. That's one of the big pros of 5G. Faster scrolling, folks. Faster downloads. Wow. But at what cost? We are opening up a can of worms that will have catastrophic consequences for humanity.
So in this age where there's mass extinction and there's climate change, is this adding to the problem of those issues?
Oh, 100%. It's just going to have a detrimental effect, proven detrimental effects already, just with 4G, let alone what could happen once 5G happens to be rolled out. It all ties in, and we are under very real threat. What an interesting time in the history for us to be alive. This is a big one, folks. Get educated. If you have not heard anything other than the telcos espousing the amazing pros of 5G, do yourselves a favour, jump online right now and Google Stop 5G Space Appeal as a first step.
So you're a journalist, and this is a bit of a edgy subject, a lot of conspiracy theories surrounding what's going on. So but you've just been to the council and had a big win there. Tell us about that and why this cause is so important to you that you're taking that risk of being seen as a kook.
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, like 25 years as a credible journalist, I'm very, very choosy in what cause I would ever put my name to. And to be honest, this is the first one I've actually done it. And it's the reason being that the more I research it, you just can't ignore the evidence. It's right there under our noses. You know, we've all been asleep. It's time to wake up. You know, this is just absolute madness. The analogy I use is we are like frogs that have been put in boiling water. We haven't jumped out, but slowly getting, the water is getting turned up to a point where we are going to cook if we don't take action. Okay, so in terms of what we've done so far on a local initiative, we addressed council. We had a great result. They are engaged. They are now listening. 3 weeks ago, as a media representative, I rang them and asked them to comment, and they said it's got nothing to do with us. After our rally, where a few hundred people turned up, they are listening now. They are engaging, and they're starting to do some due diligence. So, you know, watch this space.
Give us 3 steps that we could take right now.
Is get online, join the petition, join the local Facebook Stop 5G pages, and ask Paul Fletcher, our communications minister, get online and, you know, send messages to him. Speak to your school, ask the principal, are we hardwired? Get informed and start making noise.
Thank you so much for coming on to Fierce. You are fierce!
Thank you, brother.
Hello, this is Anya Turrell telling you to always return to the sea and always listen to Fierce FM. I love the name of it.
Yeah.
Fierce.
We're living in a new time. We're living in the grandmother time, the grandmother dreaming. There's a changeover from the grandfather time to the grandmother times. There's a female energy all around the planet, and it just means most females will be empowered.
Oh, brother, our good men, they are dying. How do we stop their own hands when the minds are lying? And our sons, they've run to war. How do we teach them of the heroes that have been before? Dear sisters, our women, they are weary. Our mountain holds a river, but a rock shows no mercy. And our daughters, they are left crying, naked on the river's edge, tired from trying. Be not afraid to dance the surrender. Be not afraid, do it in your way. Fuck you, we were born to do this. Sis, we were born to do this. Stupid motherfuckers, we were born to do this. Oh, mothers, you have always done this. Our gentlemen are chasing honor, ready to run but stuck as bystanders. Their wounds still bleed. How do we close them when there's still time left to heal? And our gentle women are kissing regrets, drowning in deep water when there's land there to be built. And they are falling from grace. How can we hold them steady, standing at the cliff's face? Be not afraid to dance a surrender. And be not afraid, do it in your way. Fuck you, we were born to do this. Oh, sisters, we were born to do this. Oh, stupid motherfuckers, we were born to do this. Oh, mothers, you have always done this. We came from a mother to her, we will return.
Fierce. It's so apt.
Thank you for listening to Fierce. This program celebrates the diversity of LGBTIQ identities and perspectives. Fierce is produced in Bundjalung Country at 2NCR Lismore and can also be heard on podcast at fiercefm.podbean.com and in New Zealand on Fresh FM as well as all over Australia through the Community Radio Network.